All right, we're back on the front suspension for the Cuda. This car actually did not come stock with a front sway bar, which was kind of surprising to me because I thought all e-bodies came equipped with sway bars. It does have a rear sway bar, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use the factory rear sway bar just because we're going to be changing some spacing around in the back. This kit is from Hotchkis. Decided to go to them because I've heard such good things about the quality of their parts and because I knew that it was made in America. It is part number 2254F for anybody that needs a reference, but very nice piece. This is a hollow bar opposed to the solid bar that would have came equipped on these cars. They say it's 220% stronger or stiffer. I'm not able to test that, but I'll take their word for it. Comes with all powder coated parts and brackets, spacers so that you can space the sway bar as it runs through the K-frame. Even comes with end links, all the hardware, and all the bushings are polyurethane. So I'm very pleased with everything that came in this kit. As I said, the car didn't come with a front sway bar, so I also had to buy the Mopar end link bracket, also from Hotchkis. It's basically a bracket that welds right to the lower control arm so that it can connect your end link to your front suspension. So where this goes, so as you can see, there's nothing here right now, and I'll put in a photo of the lower control arm from my Roadrunner that did come from the factory with a front sway bar. So we're gonna have to figure out a good place to put this and weld it right to the LCA. Grind the paint off, just tack weld it for now, and then have a buddy who's a much better welder than I am weld this up together. Gonna dry fit everything today so that I can mark this and figure out exactly where it needs to go, because these didn't come with any instructions on where to put them. I guess they kind of assume if you're going this route you already know what you're doing, which I guess we'll find out if I do. I'm gonna have to remove all the front suspension pieces though, just so that I don't get any splatter on them from tack welding these on. Whenever I'm all done, I'm just gonna take these off and have them powder coated anyway along with the K-frame, so I'm not too worried about painting them or anything immediately after. So not exactly a drag racing, an ideal installation for drag racing. I have no plans to ever do any autocrossing with this car, but knowing how bad my Roadrunner already handles with the front sway bar, I couldn't imagine driving one of these old cars without it. So I figured now is a good time to do it. The K-frame already has provisions for these lower brackets, so it would be a fairly straightforward installation and a worthwhile upgrade whenever I do drive it on the street. So let's start by dry fitting everything together and figure out where these brackets go. All right, and we are in. Now it's time to install the bushings onto the actual sway bar. All right, just to make sure I don't actually or accidentally scratch the sway bar whenever we're doing this test back in sheathing. The ends exposed. It's going to go on just like that. So what I'm going to do is actually install these bushings right over top of the plastic for now. Yow. There we go. So those are greasable, which makes it nice, but then these spacers, obviously that'll fit a little bit tighter in there once I tighten everything down. These spacers are designed to bring it down inside of that passageway that in the K-frame that this is going to cut through. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have to use any of these or both of these or one of these, so it's just going to be a little bit of trial and error. All right, so it's pretty obvious that I wasn't going to be able to get that front sway bar bushing assembly through here, so I had to take off the one side. Now comes the fun part of trying to shoehorn this thing through this small hole with everything else already in place. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to be able to do it or if I'm going to have to take the front wheel off just to get some clearance. So let's see, this might be a little bit ugly. That wasn't too bad once I moved the wheel and I got a bunch of stuff in my eyes. So looks like it's definitely pretty tight. Let's just try to get this first one onto the bracket and see where we're at. Try to align it the best we can. Looks like it's got to go south a little bit. I'm going to start with one spacer and just see where that gets me. That way if it's hitting the K-frame on the bottom, I know I got to go up. If it's hitting the K-frame on the top, I know I got to go down. And they give you these like half cut washers, which I can only assume go on the top, because I don't have any other place to put any other washers. So, and they also give you packs of white lithium grease, but considering that I'm not actually going to be moving the car, or should I say driving the car with this kit on, I'm not too concerned about greasing anything at this point. There will be a time to grease things at a later date. I was way off. There we go. snug each side up. A little bit of tension on that, and we'll do the other side next. There we go. Wasn't too bad of a delay. Again, we're gonna just start off with one. And if anybody knows where these half washers are actually supposed to go, feel free to let me know. The instructions did not cover that part, so I'm just gonna assume it's not critical that they go into a certain spot. That is snug enough on both sides. Oh, man. Is it hitting? Let's see. Kind of hard to see with the plastic in there, but I don't think we're hitting. Got plenty of room on the top, I know that. I think we're good. I think one spacer was it. I could probably get away with actually taking that out, but I think I might hit the back if I did that. So we are going to call that a win. And worst case, if I do discover that it's too tight, I can always take it off. All right, so we are in. I got everything tightened down on the sway bar bracket so that the sway bar itself is up against the K-frame the best that it can be. I have the car sitting as level as I can get it with a tape measure. All the cribbing blocks are level, but I measured from a bunch of reference points on the frame and on the lower control arm and the K-frame just to make sure that the car wasn't lurching to one side, which would throw the position of these brackets, way off. I put the end links on and I tightened them down so that the stem is sticking out an equal length out of the nuts on each side. So I think I got everything pretty well level. The sway bar itself kind of found center. As soon as it comes out of these bushings, it cuts off to the lower control arm, but that was kind of confirmed because all of these end links, both sides, are totally plumb. I tightened everything down. So I think that they being the brackets, found their position on the lower control arm. If I recall from my Roadrunner, the gap between the lower bend here in the bracket was just barely enough to stick your finger in, and the top pad was just lower than the bumper pad here. So I'm pretty sure this is very similar to how Mopar would have put these out on the street. The only difference is, and this is probably because the Roadrunner uses a stock bar, which is different, the bracket itself kind of looks like it's off to an angle a little bit, but excuse me, I think this is exactly the way they need to be for my application with Hotchkis. So overall, the kit was really easy to install. The hardest part was shoehorning this through the K-frame, but you shouldn't have a problem with that. I'm gonna wait to do any welding on this lower control arm because I have to take everything off. I should have taken these off in the first place just so that you can see them and so that I didn't scratch them up. But it didn't cross my mind. So before I weld anything on here, I'm gonna have to grind off some of this old paint my dad put on, which involves pretty much taking these lower control arms off, which I'm probably not gonna do until I'm ready to send the K-frame out, lower control arms, the torsion bars, everything that needs to get powder coated to powder coat. So probably going to hold off on welding that for now just because of how involved it is. And I don't want to have to take everything off, weld it, put everything back on, and then eventually take it all back apart again. So this will pretty much wrap up the front sway bar for now, but I'm very pleased with this kit. I'm glad that these worked out well because I wasn't sure since the day I received them how exactly I was going to put those on, but very straightforward. So, all right, so we're underneath the back of the car now, and I just wanted to show you the rear sway bar that I kind of just stuck in here. The rear sway bar mounts right to the frame rail, and then it connects directly to this plate that's sandwiched between the rear end and the leaf spring, and that just ties the end links together, and then you have your sway bar. So the reason why I can't use this one is because most likely I'm going to be getting a Dana 60 directly from Strange that's built to B-body specs, so that moves that wheel in. Whenever you move that wheel in, obviously the springs have to be moved over to compensate, and I'm doing that because I want to run a 9-inch slick, kind of like a stock eliminator size rear slick. So whenever you do that, obviously you're moving this point over also, and then these 2 points don't line up for your end link. So I'm pretty sure that Hotchkis does offer a sway bar for the rear that is narrowed, and I'm just going to have to do some digging and investigation. I don't think they have it listed on their website, but I might just have to call them. So front, not so important for drag racing. Rear, definitely important. Helps the car leave nice and straight. And I want this car to not be a handful. It doesn't have enough power to justify it being a handful. And my Coronet would run 1030s, 1040s, 1050s. It always left straight. And it was just a lot easier to drive, one less thing to think about. And making a race car easy to drive should be a pretty high priority for everybody. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge whenever we get there.